I call to order the March 9th, 2015 Latrobe City Council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll ask for a moment of silence to give thanks, to ask for guidance, or to just quietly relax. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Buck.
Mr. Giovanangelo?
Here.
Mrs. Smith? Here. Mrs. Caldwell-Cravener?
Here.
Mr. Scapora?
Here.
Mr. Baldneri?
Here.
Ms. Beasy? Here. Mayor Wolfman?
Here.
All present.
I'd like to welcome everyone today. I see that the nice weather brought everyone here, so welcome. Glad to see so many residents here with us tonight. At this time, can I have the approval of minutes from the February 9th, 2015 council meeting?
I move the minutes of the February 9, 2015 meeting be approved and accepted and permitted to remain on the secretary's desk where they will be available for reading and inspection to anyone.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussions on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I'll have approval of the fiscal department reports and paid bills for the month of February 2015.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions, Mr. Scapora?
Ms. Buck, everything that we're approving today is anything outside the budget constraints.
As Wayne and I were talking about it today, the only thing that we're going over right now is the salt purchasing. And you'll see that on your budget report. And it's even more than what's shown on there for the end of February. But like Wayne said, that's to be expected.
Hopefully we won't use it now, and it'll be available for end of the year, January timeframe.
Thank you.
For the record, Mike, when you weren't here last month, I asked that question for you.
Thank you as well.
Didn't I?
Yep.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we'll have the citizens' request portion of the agenda. Any items that are related to the agenda, please go to the microphone and state your name. If there's something you'd like to discuss that isn't on the agenda, we'll save that for at the end of the meeting. So at this time, are there any agenda items that anyone would like to discuss? Okay, at this time we'll move on to committee reports. Finance Committee, Mike, Madeline, anything?
Nothing outside the ordinary. Just see we're a little heavy on the salt purchase, but we have to be. We're outside our budget on the salt purchase, but perhaps we don't need to use much of it. We'll have some left over and can adjust the next year's budget on that. I don't have anything else, Madeline.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Public Safety Committee, Jerry or Julie, anything?
We've got a bunch of brochures. We're going to be putting them together in April. It's the Monday after Easter at 6:30 is our next meeting, and we're going to put them in little bags to put on people's doors, and we're going to distribute them throughout the city, and they'll have sign-up sheets if we can get some more people to join, and things are going pretty good right now, so.
Thank you, Jerry. Julie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Okay. Personnel Committee, anything, Mike? Or Tricia?
We have a negotiation session set up for March 18th with the ASPE unit, and ongoing with that.
Public Works, Jerry, Madeline.
We had a meeting at SCORE at the transfer station, and that's, we should be getting some information about it, doing some marketing studies.
Yeah, we had a, I guess, a summit on Saturday from 9 to 1. Members of the city, some members of the city council, and representatives from SCORE at St. Vincent's sat down with us, and we spent about 4 hours talking about the transfer station, what we can do about it, and working on that. I think it was a very good meeting. I think it was very informative. So I want to thank the members of SCORE for their volunteer time, and also the members of council and city employees that attended. I thought it was a good session. Anything on community development? Fabian? Julie? Okay. Board and authority reports. Tonight we have with us representatives from Latrobe Park and Rec, as well as Latrobe Community Revitalization. And I had asked them if they would do a presentation regarding the Lincoln Avenue Trail. So I'm not sure who's going to speak first, but go ahead. You're on.
I'd like to introduce Rich Rosso, who's our landscape architect, designer of the path. Jared and I, along with several other members, serve on the committee, and we meet on a regular basis. But just to bring you up to speed, Rich has prepared a slideshow for you, flyover.
Right.
Rich Rosso.
Thanks, Jeannie. What I have is, like Jeannie said, I have a quick slideshow for you.
I don't know if you can hear him, but maybe you might want to take my mic. Or can you?
Or I can talk really loud.
Can you? Let us know if you can't hear.
To the back of the room. We need to hear you. Okay. All right, can you hear me now? Yes. Good. Okay, what I'd like to do tonight is to give you a walkthrough of the Lincoln Avenue Trail in Greenway Park. Just to give you a little bit of background information, the city of Latrobe has received a $500,000 grant for the Lincoln Avenue project. And what we are proposing is between an 8 or a 10 foot, depending on the budget, depending on the bids, about an 8 to 10 foot wide asphalt paved walking trail. It basically will connect 981 Depot Street to 982. It's about 1.6 miles in length, and it will connect those 2 points. The nice thing about this walking trail, in talking to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, they highly recommended that we construct this asphalt walking trail of pervious asphalt, which means the water will actually run right through the asphalt when it rains. A good example of that was just recently installed. If you'd like to go over to the Latrobe Presbyterian Church, there is a parking lot that was constructed this past fall, and that is pervious asphalt. This walking trail is a great application for this pervious asphalt for a number of reasons. One of which is, since it is pervious, we do not need to provide any additional stormwater detention or retention for the walking trail, so the water will run right through. Also, since this is a walking trail and not a road, there won't be salt, cinders, those who are just talking about salt, won't be those sort of things would be applied to it that could potentially clog that porous asphalt. It will just be a walking trail. There will not be any vehicular traffic on it either, so it's a perfect application for that. So what I'd like to do is sort of take you for a walk through the park. I've developed a program, or I've used a program here to show you. It's called SketchUp, and so what it will show you is I've sort of constructed this model digitally over a Google Earth image so that you can see some of the features of the park. So let's walk right through the park. This first slide that you can see is just an overall, I know it's postage stamp size, but it's an overall of the walking trail itself. With 981 at the top and 982 down here at the bottom. Okay? So on to our next slide. This slide that I wanted to show you here is really just sort of existing conditions. right there at what we're calling the trailhead, or the beginning of the trail itself. Right at Weiss Furniture, 981 Depot Street. You can see that's where the trail would start. And this was, as you probably all well know, was an old railroad bed. And this is where our trail would start. And what we're proposing is what's called a trailhead. Zoom and get that perfect for you. Okay. So that would be our trailhead. There would be sort of a welcome arch. It says "Welcome to Latrobe" right there. There would be that would be constructed out of steel, and it would almost look like I-beams together, along with the city logo, and some planting, and a circle, or sort of a turnaround, so that if you're walking from one end to the other and you want to go back, you sort of walk around this little this little turnaround and head on your way back. So this trail would be 8 to 10 foot wide, would accommodate people on bikes, would also accommodate people who might be jogging, or just people who might want to walk between point A and point B. So this would be the beginning of our trailhead, of our trail itself. And I'll take you for a walk through it. And as you can see, what we're also proposing is some mounding, and also the trail will have sort of a curvilinear feel to it. So instead of just connecting point A to point B with a straight line, what we've done is sort of provide some traffic calming ideas, and also some interest along the path for people to walk there. So we have some curvilinear, the path will actually curve, and we'll have some mounds alongside of the trail. Now we're sort of zooming out a little bit, and we're starting to walk down. And you can see how the trail curves, and we're also providing street trees along there. Again, you can see how we split the trail in different areas too, just to give it a little bit of interest, and also for traffic calming. And you can see how we're providing mounds, benches, trash receptacles, solar lighting along the trail for interest and for safety. Again, more mounding and curves. So it would be a nice pleasant walk as you go through there, rather than, like I said, connecting point A to point B. Then what we're also proposing in certain areas too are small gathering spaces. And you see these little, what I call eyebrows. And they might have a bench, they might have some mounding and some planting where people can sort of get off of the path and have sort of a gathering space. Also, if you were ever in the future thinking about maybe having some sort of street fair, farmer's market, anything like that, you would have these little bump outs where you could have different features. So along the walking trail, we do have these little eyebrows also. And you can see how the trail curves through there. And there's the intersection of Main Street and Lincoln Avenue right there. And you can see the mounds. What we also do is provide some mounding at the intersections too, to sort of, and we will have some bollards to protect the pedestrians, and so that they know they're coming to an intersection besides it being striped. And as we're continuing down, you can see some of those eyebrow trails or eyebrow pop-outs. This is zoomed way back so you can really see where some of those bump outs are. And you can see some of the streets, the cross streets, Chestnut, Walnut, along those areas in there. And as we continue down, now we're getting, again, we have our curvilinear walking trail. We're getting closer to the old athletic field. And the old athletic field is another trailhead that we will be providing there. So we will be providing some improvements there at the old athletic field, and you can see some of them here. We're going to be providing some paved parking right now. It's just a gravel parking area, so that will be paved and striped. We'll also be providing a guide rail along there, or a guardrail, so the cars obviously cannot ride into the park itself. There are some existing telephone or utility poles that are there now, but we will be providing a guardrail there to protect people, because the walking trail will be on the other side of the parking lot, and we will have some planting, and then also we'll have some connection spots from the parking lot to go into the athletic field. And we will also be providing some areas by the existing pro shop, for lack of a better term, where we're going to be providing some seating and some picnic tables. So you can see those areas in there. That we're losing the focus a little bit, but you can see there. So that's the trailhead. Another view of it, you can see we would also be providing, like I was showing you the trailhead over there at the at 981, another arch, sort of to welcome people to the into the park. There's a better shot of it. You can see it. We would have that welcome arch right by the existing deck hockey. And then a gathering space by the deck hockey area. We would be providing some picnic tables. So this is sort of really a focus or a gathering spot. We figure it's kind of sort of halfway along the trail, so it's a great place not only for people to gather, but also for people that are using the park itself. We would be providing a gathering space because there isn't one there really now. So this would be sort of a dual purpose. And then as we leave the old athletic field, again, our curvilinear trail, we would hopefully also be providing some street trees along those areas to, again, sort of provide some buffering between Lincoln Avenue itself and the trail visually. And then once we get down toward the end, toward 982, we really sort of start getting a little bit pinched as far as width is concerned, so the trail does have to be pretty straight in through there. We don't have the opportunity to develop some nice curves there. So that does one thing we will have to provide is this pretty much a straight shot. And you see there are some street trees that are planted there now, and we'll be updating that and hopefully adding some additional trees. And then as we get to the end and get toward 982, there's another trailhead which looks very similar to the one at 981. Again, a circle provided for people to sort of turn around in that area. And there's another shot of it. This would be looking back toward it. And again, the third spot, our third trailhead. So again, we have our Welcome to Latrobe sign there, our welcoming arch there at the entrance. And you can also see some solar lights there, trash receptacles. So what I'd like to do then, we're going to just take you back, and I have some shots that are a little bit farther back, but you can see we're sort of then going to fly all the way back to where we started. So you can see the overall view of the trail and the aerial view. So we're flying back to where we started. You can see the old athletic field in the background. Then there's the field. And then we get into more curvilinear path with our eyebrows and our mounds. And then heading back to our entrance. Again, you see that gathering space by Weiss Furniture where the path sort of splits off, and we provide some mounding in that area. And then back to where we started. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice presentation.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Could everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Good.
Is there any thought of putting, some trails have exercise stations, bars you pull up on?
I think that was one of the things that was thought about in some of the earlier studies. As far as the grant that we have for this phase, Jeannie helped me out on this. We don't really have budget for that at this time.
No, we don't. But this project may be done in phases, depending upon how the funds break out. But there may be somewhere in the future. But we did talk a lot about, excuse me, having areas where the community could set up little tents, and we could do like a little, vendor show or some kind of little special event in the neighborhood. And I'm born and raised in Latrobe, but I don't know the streets. I just kind of follow my nose. But there's a set of a bank of streets that are past Weiss, halfway between Weiss and the athletic field, where there's a tremendous amount of space to the right.
That's where we have, Jeannie, that's where we have these bump outs
Right.
here.
I can't remember the names of the streets though, Rich, is my
Yeah,
problem.
oh, yeah. Right, there's a bump out, and they line up with the alley, so like Chestnut, Spring, Weldon, as they continue on, each one of those blocks has a bump out.
Yep, and there are sort of three blocks where it's just incredibly beautiful and spacious, so that we could use some little activities along there.
Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, I have two questions. You had talked about maybe having some get-togethers, like tents and things like that for sales and that there. You're probably limited somewhat in parking in that area.
Right.
So that could create a problem with something like that.
Right.
Also, there won't be any bikes on the trail, correct?
Yes, there will be.
There will be.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, it'll be a walking and a bike trail then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Chief, you more you have a question?
No, I was just concerned with where the path crosses the roads.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned with that as far as what, is there going to be any type of warnings or signs?
Yeah, there'll be stop signs at level, low. There will be the mounting and separating of the traffic to slow down the bikers and the walkers. There'll be stop signs, and then
We'll have a bollard there.
and there'll be a bollard.
So in other words, you can't go straight, you have to
No.
go around the bollard.
You have to go around, and all of the concrete there will be colored and stamped, and warnings, and it'll be very trying to make all of those intersections safe.
The other thing we have to do is we have to provide bollards there, because I'm just thinking, in case somebody gets confused or somebody who doesn't know the area, thinking they almost might be able to make a turn onto the trail. So we also have to protect the trail from vehicles, so we'll have bollards across the trail at those intersections so people can't turn in on that. Also, the trail, will be 8 to 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet wide. So it won't look like a road.
Stopping?
All right, so he says we're going to pervious asphalt, which would either be modified binder or straight binder, am I not correct?
It's a
Which
type
lets the water go through, it's a pervious binder, or
Right.
pervious asphalt.
Right.
All right, now, being as it's not a top coat, that's gonna entail maintenance in the future quicker than what our current walking path does, because that's a top coat down there. Who is going to be responsible for the maintenance on it in the future, which if it's going to be a modified binder or a straight binder, that's going to be about 5-6 years. It'll need a seal coat or something on, because once the water goes through, it gets down underneath into the asphalt and the ground underneath, that's where you start getting your potholes and your cracks up the edge and everything.
That would be the responsibility of Park and Rec, correct?
Yeah, we've talked about that in our committee. We know that every 5 to 7 years, we're going to have to do some maintenance on the path itself.
There will be under drains in certain areas. We're getting the survey and the topography done, so there'll be under drains in certain areas so that water will not accumulate in the base itself. So there will be under drains, and then they'll be connected to the swales that are alongside the path.
Anything else?
I don't beg to differ on that last statement there, the water won't accumulate underneath it, but I'll take your word for it. That's it, Rosie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the trail. I live on 600 block Chestnut, and I grew up in a community that had something very much like this, and cars and places you to stop. You mentioned though that there won't be any, you can't salt this. So will there be any plowing done of the trail in the winter, even just to get the snow down, even if you're not going to salt?
We've been talking about that as well. We don't know how it's going to work yet. We have a nice Ventrac tractor with a plow, and we're thinking about maybe purchasing a broom as well that can attach onto that Ventrac tractor. But we're going to have to cross that maintenance and snow removal bridge when we see how it works.
throw one thing out there. I was just in Washington, D.C., and right after the snowstorm, and I was amazed to see people cross-country skiing on the Capitol. The monument is really amazing. I didn't know you could do that. And so that's one thought, right? Could it be used? Of course, you're going to have to get across roads, and we saw the cross-country skiers will just kind of walk across. So that's one thought, is it might actually be something desirable for cross-country skiers.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
What about lighting? Is this something that's going to be lit?
We had originally included some lighting, but our cost estimate, it might have to come in a second phase. But yes, we would like the path lit from 981 to 982 the whole way.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janine, but I think our hope is, certainly my hope is that once we get this first phase done, it's going to be, as you said, I think I'm really excited about it. Everybody I talk to is very excited about it. And that, it's one of those things, build it and they will come, and more money may come along with that. Once we see the improvements that are going to be to that area, the use that it has, more funding may become available. That's what my hope is anyways.
We have an additional grant to the SPC for $72,000 that would assist us with lighting and some of the other expenses, but we're not sure if we're going to be successful at that grant or not. But ultimately, we want it lit. Want to use solar lighting all along. But I think it was estimated, the lighting was estimated at a cost of, hang on 1 second. Oh, see, we already took it out. Wasn't it like $30,000?
Right. It was about $2,500 a light, or less.
We had about 15 of those along the path, but we had to back that out. If we get the grant, it'll go back in.
Jared, John, Alan, you guys want to add anything?
I got a great question here, Rosie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically, you're putting millions on top of this and stuff like that. You're going to roll it and stuff, right?
No, it's going to be pervious asphalt. It won't be millings. It will. It's like one of the gentlemen said. It's kind of like a modified binder. So it is real asphalt. It's rolled. It's hot. It's applied just like an asphalt parking lot or street. But the pervious asphalt does not have a lot of fines. Does not have a lot of sand in it. So that allows the water to penetrate through into the stone base.
Brushing it and plowing ain't going to hurt that.
No.
Okay.
Now, if you want to see an example, Latrobe Presbyterian Church just installed one, the parking lot there this past fall, so you can go over and take a look at it.
John?
Yeah, I'm with Penn State Extension and the Smart Growth Partnership in Westmoreland County. I worked out of the Green Forge building at Donahoe Center. We have pervious concrete outside of our building. The amazing thing about the pervious concrete, I haven't seen the specs on this pervious asphalt, but every rainfall that we had in the last 7 to 8 years that I've worked there fell directly through it. There was no runoff from it. The snow seemed to clear a little sooner than on the normal concrete. What happens usually with pervious concrete or asphalt, there's a much thicker gravel base underneath and a lot more drainage. So the gentleman's concern in the back is that the water will go through into that drainage area and infiltrate into the ground, so you don't get the freeze and thaw that you would with a normal asphalt. But I haven't seen the specs on this, but that's normally what would happen.
Based on our stormwater calculations, there's going to be anywhere between 12 and 18 inches of stone, a large graded stone under the asphalt. So there's plenty of bottom drainage.
So there's a lot more base to this kind of
than your standard asphalt paving. Correct.
The other thing to think about for the audience members, whenever you create an enhancement such as this, you see all the neighborhoods around. It creates a safe walking place to get into the downtown commercial district. So you make sense to start to get a more vibrant downtown, more places to shop, more tax revenues, more employment opportunities. So it's not just a walking path, it's a lot more than that.
Alan?
I know from a Chamber of Commerce standpoint, we're really excited about the events that are going to be happening downtown and the role we're going to play in that. And projects like this really increase visibility downtown, they increase safety. they increase walkability. So as we're bringing people into town, a project like this, it's really something that's easy to get behind. And we're excited to be able to promote it at the Neighborhood Visitor Information Center, and then be able to utilize this project in the events we're going to have downtown, like Banana Split Celebrations, Steelers Fest, and programs like that. So kudos.
Thank you. Jared?
We've heard from different entities about the property value increase. I don't know if that was touched upon. About 10 to 15% property value increase, and it's across the wards from both connecting points, which is a huge caveat. And people speed here too. So also with the trails and the way the trees are lined, the estimates we've heard are 7 to 15 mile per hour increase in speed. It's just you sort of juxtapose against Montana. When you're in Montana, right, the speed limit's faster, there's less roads, and you're wide open on both sides. But when you're more hubbed, psychologically, we tend to slow down. And that's one of the, I guess, inadvertent positive aspects of when you put in the trail next to a road that way.
Well, I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to come and showing this to us, and Jeannie, and John for coming down, and everyone that's commented on it. I think it's going to be great for the community. So, anybody else have anything to add before we move on? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Well done.
Well, I may as well make my plug here, so since we're here. I think that the city, there was a discussions early on about the city committing more than what we committed to this project. Am I right about that?
Originally, in our original budget, we had two installments from the city, one in 2014 and one in 2015.
But the 2015 we didn't put into the budget. So I guess my question for this council to think about and for Wayne to look at is to see if there is any money in the budget to help with this project. Consider, so that's, we can look into it and talk about it in an agenda prep session and see if there is any money to meet that sort of commitment. Okay.
Thanks.
I have a question about the funding that there has since Unity Township is out of the parks and that there, and we lost I think about $165,000 there. Has that created a really big problem?
Huge.
Huge problem. Okay, what have we done to try to eliminate some of that problem?
Well, if I may, I can speak to some of that. We because I am on that board, but we did change the fee structure, and we went back to the 3-tiered fee structure for programming for Park and Rec. So the city residents will pay one fee, residents of Unity Township will pay another fee, and then residents outside of the Greater Latrobe School District will pay a higher fee. So that's one thing we've done. What else, Jean?
We have probably 15 different special events, smaller ones, that we're planning on generating more revenue through those. And we're just hoping for more community support. There are a lot of sympathetic ears and a lot of folks that realize that it hurt us deeply financially.
I think
it froze all the salaries. We're doing and cut in every line item that we were able to cut.
I think what's going to be interesting to watch as it develops is, I'm sure you are in the paper, that Unity Township just made a commitment with Greensburg Y to spend $50,000 for a soccer program. So out of that 160 that they were spending on Park and Rec, they're going to spend 50 on a soccer program. Plus now they're going to be responsible for maintaining their own parks, which means making sure that they're safe, and when equipment breaks down, they're going to have to replace it, because the liability involved with somebody getting hurt is going to be on the township as opposed to the commission. And in the end, I'd be shocked if they spent less than $160,000 maintaining all their parks and keeping them up to code, as well as $50,000 for one program. So I'm just surprised that, I'd be shocked if they spend less than what they spent with the commission.
But they can afford to spend more because they have more growth and more building in Unity Township than.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is for $160,000, they were getting multiple programs, state-of-the-art equipment, grant money from all over the place, a lot of things that they were getting for their $160,000 commitment. My point is going to be, you know, when they're all said and done, how much are they going to be spending, and really, you know, was it worth it? But that's their decision to make, and our Park and Rec program will survive and thrive as it has for how many years. So, anything else? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Department reports, Joe?
Yes, to address the salt issue, yes, we are a little over on salt, but I believe that that's going to carry on into the fall. I'm estimating that we'll probably go into the fall this year with about 250 tons, which hopefully we won't have to spend anything the rest of the year. And part of that also, I just got our liquid calcium tank filled at 4,000 gallons. I usually buy that every other year, and that is filled to the top. Like I said, we got 4,000 gallons, so that's an expense next year that we won't incur. I hope to, in fact, we started today. I hope to start pothole patching throughout the city. The main streets first, and some of the worst ones, then secondary streets. Then I hope as weather breaks to go into some of the alleys and put some Band-Aids and to do some repairs in the alleys. And then by that time, hopefully the sun will be out and we can start our major cleanup of Latrobe, getting rid of all the winter dirt and grime. Thank you.
Joe, I just want to say to commend you and your staff on how well they've done this year. I've had people where I work compliment me on the roads in the city and say that, you know, they were really well done, and people that don't live around here. So I wanted just to make sure that I passed on to you and your staff that congratulations on a well done year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Bush, would you please let me in my office? I locked myself out.
That's going to cost you.
Small thing.
Chief Bumar?
Good evening. Just wanted to let everyone know that our newest officer is starting on the 17th. Also, or the 16th rather, the 17th, we're getting one of our officers who was out on surgery since December back. And also, I've made a conditional offer of employment to an individual who finished high on our last testing for the school resource officer. He was an ex-state trooper, and pending his transfer of Act 120, which is a requirement for municipal police officers, I have to finish the paperwork for that, and he has some other things that he has to go through, and pending that, he will have the school resource officer job. So we'll only be down one officer, the school resource officer. The problem will be solved, and hopefully we can move on.
Thank you, Chief.
Any questions on that from council?
Thank you. Ann? Anything? Mr. Kelly, you're up.
Madam Mayor, members of council, before we start into the agenda item, I would ask council's pleasure in amending the agenda. I have given the council members a memorandum. A request has been made for an encroachment easement of about 1.5 feet for the building formerly owned by Jerry Andy, attorney Jerry Andy, out at Harrison Avenue. The building is about 1.5 feet into the Harrison Avenue right of way. It creates a title problem for any future marketing of that building. We have done this many times before. I could give you 4 or 5 that just come to mind, but we do this as a courtesy to our people in our community. Therefore, I'm going to ask if council would kindly amend the agenda under Public Works Department as item 3, and that would be a Livingston Street Rentals LLC encroachment easement. So the first step is we need to amend the agenda to include that.
May I have a motion to amend the agenda, please?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I'm going to hand this back to council. I happened to drive by today, and miracle of miracles, I was able to take a picture with my iPhone and actually get it to my printer. So I'll pass that around if you want to see.
Welcome to the 21st century, Mr. Kelly.
I'm fighting it all the way.
You want to go ahead then with the rest of the agenda?
The next item will appear under Administration and Finance Department, and it is a resolution, and the resolution reads, it is titled Ratifying the Action of the City Manager in Signing an Electric Supply Agreement with Constellation New Energy, Inc. for electricity generation for metered accounts and streetlight accounts of the City of Latrobe. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, Council of the City of Latrobe does hereby approve, accept, and ratify the action of the City Manager in signing the electricity supply agreement submitted by Constellation New Energy, Inc., which is attached to this resolution. Section 2, Council does hereby ratify the actions of the City Manager in signing an agreement with Constellation New Energy, Inc. to provide electric service for various metered accounts and streetlights in the city. And Section 3, that the Mayor, City Manager, and any other proper city officer are hereby authorized to sign any and all documents necessary to take any and all action necessary to carry into effect this resolution and the electric program enrollment agreement attached here too. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Buck?
This is Resolution 2015-8. Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith. Yes. Mr. Golneri.
Yes.
Ms. Beasy. Yes. Mrs. Caldwell-Craven.
Yes.
Mr. Skopora.
Yes.
Mayor Wolford.
Yes.
There's 7 yes.
Madam Mayor and members of council, the next item also appears under Administration and Finance. It is a resolution. It is entitled Approving a Grant Agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Keystone Recreation Park and Conservation Fund for the replacement of the Adams Memorial Library roof. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, the Council of the City of Latrobe hereby approves and accepts an agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Office of Commonwealth Libraries for receipt of a grant in the amount of $37,350 for the purpose of replacement of the Adams Memorial Library roof. Said agreement being attached as Exhibit A. Section 2, Council of the City of Latrobe hereby authorizes and directs the Mayor of the City of Latrobe and/or the City Manager and the City Secretary to execute the agreement for receipt of this grant. Section 3, that the Council does hereby ratify and approve the signing of this agreement by the City Manager, which signing occurred prior to the passage of this resolution. And Section 4, that the Mayor, City Manager, Secretary, and any other proper city officer are authorized and directed to take all action and to sign any and all documents necessary to carry into effect this resolution and the agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Office of Commonwealth Libraries. Resolved in council, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions? Ms. Buck?
This is Resolution 2015-9. Mr. Skopora.
Yes.
Ms. Beasy.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Golneri.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith. Yes. Mrs. Caldwell Cravener.
Yes.
Mayor Wolford.
Yes.
That is 7 yes.
The next item under Administration and Finance is a simple motion, and the motion reads as follows. I move that the city contribute the sum of $300 to sponsor a golf outing flag for the WCCC Education Foundation Scholarship Fund. The request has been made of the city to sponsor a flag at their golf outing.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
Do we have it in the budget?
It's a small dollar item. It's so nice to do it.
There is money in the budget.
For business purposes, we have a,
Petty cash fund.
Yeah, it's a.
I don't know the budget number, but yeah, we have
Yeah.
an amount that we put in there for items that come up through the year. There is a fund, not particular for this.
Conference expense or business expense,
Business
400,
expense.
440, or 460?
I didn't know the number, but it's a business expense account.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The last item under Administration and Finance is also a motion. The motion reads, I move we authorize the solicitor to withdraw the Act 537 update appeal filed on behalf of the city before the Environmental Hearing Board. The reason this motion is on the agenda this evening, it is my opinion as well as the opinion of the solicitor for the LMA, DTMA, and Derry Township, that the appeal that we have filed will be dismissed. We have agreed to file a joint withdrawal of that appeal, which will save unnecessary legal time and expense in trying to fight something that would basically be a losing battle. This matter will more than likely end up in front of Commonwealth Court in the future. So the motion would authorize me to go ahead and file that withdrawal.
May I have, what am I looking for? A motion? Yeah, may I have a motion to authorize the solicitor to authorize the appeal?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item appears under the Police Department. It is a resolution. It is establishing a handicapped veteran van disabled or accessible parking space at 233 Loyal Hannah Avenue. Whereas the council now desires to establish a handicapped disabled veteran van accessible parking space at 233 Loyal Hannah Avenue, Latrobe, for the property of Theodore E. Kowalski. Now therefore be resolved, Section 1, that the parking space located on the southerly side of Loyal Hannah Avenue, adjacent to the property of Theodore E. Kowalski, being the same as hereby designated as a handicapped disabled veteran van accessible parking space, should the applicant no longer reside at the premises located at 233 Loyal Hannah Avenue. Then in that event, the handicapped space designation set forth herein shall cease and terminate. Section 2, that appropriate city officers be and hereby authorized and directed to take all steps necessary and place all proper signage to carry into effect this resolution. Section 3, the within resolution shall become effective immediately. Section 4, any and all other resolutions inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make it.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions? Ms. Buck?
This is resolution 2015-10. Mr. Baldneri.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanangelo.
Yes.
Ms. Beasley.
Yes.
Mrs. Caldwell Cravener.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Scapora.
Yes.
Mayor Wolford.
Yes.
That is 7 yes.
The next item also appears under the Police Department. It is a simple motion, and it reads, I move we authorize the city manager or his designee to take those steps necessary to file an application for a DUI task force grant. This was discussed at the agenda session. It's a simple motion.
May I have a motion to authorize the city manager to begin the application for the DUI task force grant?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
That's so funny.
Nothing. I'm sorry.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item appears under the Public Works Department. It is also a simple motion. It reads, I move we authorize the city manager or his designee to purchase LED light bulbs for the municipal building and to seek a state rebate towards the purchase of these bulbs.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
Yes, Rosie. Is that for the whole building? Like
Yes.
on fire department too, and just up here? Is it going to be just upstairs here? I mean, because it's very dark down in the fire department down there. We have
We're gonna have to
people
do-
in there all the time.
If you did the whole building, we couldn't afford it. So what we're doing is looking at components. And the fire down here, where the trucks are, and the ambulance bay are the two that I would suggest we look at in particular. There's give you some quick numbers if you want on those. Those two particular areas, our upfront cost is $6,800, but immediately you get a one-time rebate of $2,300. So you net to $4,500, and your annual savings is around $2,000. So it's got about a 2.25 year, 2.5 year payoff. Now I was just suggesting doing the components that we can kind of get the biggest bang for the buck. They've got to be on 24 hours a day, and that really is those two areas.
Any other questions?
So after those two areas are done, are you doing the rest of the building?
Well, we can in time. The problem is we have to have the rebate we have to apply for by April. And you have 90 days to do that. So, you know, we've got a short window. This grant is just about expired. It's been on for a little while. It's kind of a neat situation where the fact that we're actually only paying right now 6.5, and with consolidation we're paying 6 for our energy per kilowatt. This is a 7-cent rebate. So actually, you're getting more money back than you're paying in. But it's like I said, it's the end of a 2-year cycle, and it's just about completed. So we have to get done what we can while we have the time and the money.
And watch and see if it comes around again. Right?
Sorry?
See if it comes around again.
Yeah, I mean, if we did the whole building, it's $40,000. So I'd rather save some of that for the HVAC system.
And your plan is to take this out of building and property maintenance for this? Which we have a
Actually, I was going to take it out of capital. There's capital money in there, and it was set aside in the budget because I figured the HVAC system may not make it. So the HVAC and lights were part of. I didn't do a full-blown capital plan because I didn't have time, but we can take it out of capital.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item also appears under Public Works. It is a motion as well. It reads, I move we authorize the city manager or his designee to sell by bid, public sale, or auction approximately 200 unused parking meter heads. This will give the city manager the option of trying to determine which method would net us the most funds, the most money.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The last scheduled agenda item is what we added a brief while ago. It appears as item 3 under Public Works, and it is the Ligonier Street Rentals LLC encroachment easement. It's entitled, it's a resolution entitled Authorizing Encroachment Easement Agreement with Ligonier Street Rentals LLC. Now therefore be resolved, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Latrobe hereby grants a variance for a structure situated upon property owned by property owner located at 1870 Ligonier Street from the provisions of Section 85-8 of the Code of Ordinances of the City. Further, Council also grants the property owner an encroachment easement for an intrusion of the building structure approximately 1.5 feet into the public right-of-way of Harrison Avenue at the current location of said structure. Said encroachment easement agreement is attached here to as Exhibit 1, Section 2. The mayor, the city manager, and the city secretary being hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect the provisions of this resolution and the encroachment easement established herein. Resolved in council this date, the encroachment agreement is attached. The proper motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution as outlined by the solicitor?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Buck?
This is resolution 2015-11. Mr. Baldner?
Yes.
Mr. Sikora?
Yes.
Ms. Beasy?
Yes.
Mrs. Caldwell-Craigner?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Jim Angela?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
That is 7 yes.
Is that it, Mr. Kelly?
That is it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Does anyone have any unfinished business? I just have one item that I should have mentioned before. Chief Bumar, I just want to commend you and your officers for, I'm not sure the public realizes, which is a good thing, what the last several months have been like, because we have been shorthanded, so many officers. And I know a lot of sacrifices were made by you and all the officers to make sure that all the shifts were covered and the citizens of Latrobe were safe and protected. So I commend you for that, and it's nice to know that we're almost out of the woods on that. But I just want to tell you that it doesn't go unnoticed by this council and members of the city that recognize what was going on. So thank you very much. Any new items of business? At this time, we have the citizens request open forum, so anyone who has anything on your mind, please go to the microphone. What? State your name and address.
James Miller, 127 East 4th Avenue, Latrobe. I have a few questions on the state police officer. I assume he's a retired officer. Are we going to have any savings on on medical insurance that we would have to pay, since he would be retired from the state police? Possibly have, I would assume if he's retired from the state police, they have a pretty good medical insurance already. So I'm interested to see if we're going to have any savings in that area. Second, how would his retirement, if he works at the Latrobe Police Department, let's say for 10 years, I would assume that he could get a retirement from the city and also from the state police. He'll have seniority. Does his state police seniority come with the position? Thank you.
I don't know the answer to any of those questions.
He's covered under the contract as a regular police officer. So as far as benefits goes, he gets the same benefits as any police officer. As far as retirement, yes, he could. I don't know how the state retirement, if you can double up, I don't know how that works, but he would be eligible for retirement from us after 10 years. And I forgot your third question.
I only had two. I was just wondering if we're going to have any savings on the medical.
When you said yes about seniority, his seniority would be seniority for the city. It has nothing to do with the state.
Okay. What about medical insurance?
We won't know
Do you have any savings on that?
We won't know the savings until he would fill out the paperwork.
But there's a possibility we probably could have some.
There's a possibility.
Yeah.
If he chose not to have it, yes, you're right. But I mean, it's offered to him as it is to any other officer.
He may want to go through the state police medical retirement instead of us paying out, which is, yeah.
Mr. Bolton?
Jim Bolton, 225 Irving Avenue. Saturday night, Lakefield Fire Department had their annual dinner. And it's an annual fair to honor our retired members and other members that have worked overtime for the betterment of the fire department. Last year after our dinner, my question.
You gotta bring the mic up.
Bring the mic up.
Bend it upward.
That's it.
There you go.
And get a little closer to it. That one doesn't work as.
Last year I questioned the committee at the first department meeting pertaining to the fact that I didn't see anybody from council or the mayor there. And there was a discussion. Saturday night, I don't know, it was for my benefit or what, the MC, after he was finishing up introducing individuals from our mutual aid companies in the surrounding area, he mentioned the fact that there was an invitation that was sent to each and every member of city council and the mayor. And unfortunately, there was no response from anybody here. And it's not a good situation, somebody should have showed up.
I responded. I talked to Stuffy. I couldn't make it.
Well, like I say, you have city fire departments made up of taxpayers. They give countless and countless hours free to the city for all kinds of work besides fire. And quite frankly, you can't afford a fire department. Second thing is, Mr. Jones there, I don't know what you're doing, you got a sharp pencil or something. Council here several years ago hired a company, some individuals that I, sitting in the audience, listened to, thought were a little off base. But they were looking at, I believe, $150,000 deficit on the 2014 budget. Somehow you've got a, what, I think an $8,000 surplus. And they figured that the city was going to be short $500,000 for the 2015 budget. So I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up. Because the council has had a deficit budget for quite a number of years prior to your coming in. And when they spend $70,000, to have someone tell them they need more money or they're going to have all these deficits, and you can figure them up with that possibly here for 2016, you might be looking for a raise. I've listened to this presentation here tonight pertaining to this Lincoln Avenue. I'm probably the only one against it. But this so-called trail, I've heard, I see a lot of smoke and mirrors when you're spending taxpayer money. And everybody says grants, 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 grants. You have a state budget that's anywhere from $2 billion to $5 billion deficit. It needs money. If they would eliminate grant money to all towns, cities, and townships in Pennsylvania, we wouldn't have to pay any more raises and taxes in the state here. But everybody wants money. You have a project, a trail here. You're going to cross 7 streets. 4 of them are rather busy. What do we do? And I love the imitation brick crosswalks. When I first seen one of those suckers, I called them a handicapped rumble strip. People in wheelchairs or what have you crossing these things. And they're concrete. How are you going to maintain them? Like I say, the ones they built in Latrobe, they're going to fail in a few years. That's guaranteed. But how, you're talking $600,000. This is $1 million project. You're short money in the Parks and Recreation program. You're sitting here thinking, who's going to maintain that? If you want to get some use out of something, I don't see children in the playgrounds. I understand the attendance at the pool is down. And it looks like, from what I'm reading and seeing and talking to people, every kid that goes to a playground is going to pay. I remember when they were all free. You have an Easter egg hunt that you got to pay to go to. I remember when they used to be free. There's a price tag on everything we try to do. I don't understand it. we seem like we're getting top heavy. We're spending too much in salaries. We are on the kids and the families in our community. We had a Park and Recreation Board years ago. We had one gentleman, Tiger Harold, the secretary. We had a slow pitch softball league. We had a fast pitch. We had baseball. We had playground pool. What happened that we have to have, and we didn't charge anybody really anything. Yet today, we don't have none of these things. You have a tough time cutting the grass. You're short money from the fact that Union Township failed out. It's, I don't know, you're just looking for grants. And that's tax money. That's your tax money that's going to the state. They're going to fumble with it. They're going to take their cut and then finally send it back to you.
Mr. Bolt, let me tell you my theory on the grants. If you don't believe that money should go to that, that's a conversation you need to have with your state reps. We have no control over that tax money or where it goes. But if there's grant money out there that the state's going to give away, I want them to give it to us, not to Jeanette, not to Menneson, not to Derry, not to anybody else. If there's money to be given away, I would like it to come to our community, and I think we all feel that we would. Whether or not you believe that they should be taking our taxpayers' dollars and doing that, you should be calling them and complaining, because we have no control over that. But the money's going to be there, and if we don't apply for it, it's going to go to some other municipality. So our tax dollars are going to go somewhere else, and we're trying to keep our state tax dollars here.
Well, I said at the beginning, it shouldn't be going to any towns or the townships or what the cities. You just can't keep on throwing money away on dream ideas.
I think it's investing in the future. I think we have a responsibility to keep this town clean and fresh and new, and try to do things to make it attractive to people to come here. And I agree with you. When I was a kid, there were tons of people that volunteered. You didn't have two parent families working all the time. You had people that volunteered their time to do these things. People don't do that anymore. That's why we don't have people volunteering to cut the grass, because they're busy. They don't have time. That's part of the reason why we have to employ people to do some of the things that 25 or 35 years ago, we had volunteers in the community willing to do it. It's just a changed world, whether we like it or not. It's a changed world. And if we don't try and keep up with the times and try and keep this community moving forward, it's going to be a ghost town.
There's a lot of ways you can move the community forward, for what I'm saying. Will this move the community forward, though? Suppose, whatever this drill, these ideas. As I've said numerous times, people don't really walk anymore. I sit in my front porch in the summertime. I see very few people walking down to the park. They'll drive down, but I don't see a lot of people even walking along the trail that we have on Latrobe right now. It's just one of those things, like I said, I keep looking at, well, I just got them, taxes. It's becoming expensive to live in Pennsylvania. No wonder a lot of people move. And from what I'm reading, it's getting worse. And now we have another change of government, and a lot of people are saying they're going to be scaring businesses out of the state. I don't know. Like I said, if you would eliminate these grant monies from all municipalities, wherever, and let them pay their own way, you could probably cover that they're figuring they were what, $2 billion to $5 billion deficit in the budget. Where are they going to make it up? They don't know. Somebody's going to have to pay for that bill. Whether you pay for it locally or on a state level, someone has to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Joe.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce somebody here tonight.
I was going to come back to that, but thank you. No, you go ahead, please.
Okay. It's somebody who made a huge commitment and a huge investment in the city of Latrobe, and that is Mr. Brian Dworkin. He's the owner, operator of Castle Co-Packers over here at the Old Nature Building. He has some of his,
Thank you, Brian. I'm sorry, we've never met. We only spoke on the phone, and I didn't know you were here until just a few minutes ago.
But I've already got a bunch of stuff. Anybody whatsoever can grab anything they want. And I just wanted to actually come, say hi to everybody.
Tell us about your business and what do you do.
Yeah, real stuff. So we're a bottling company, a little different than the ones you've had before. We don't actually own any of our brands. We invest in a lot of the brands. We're just a contract manufacturer. So products that's why I brought you some stuff. We're like the opposite of everything you guys see. So we go for high-end, niche stuff. The most expensive items you see in the grocery store usually come from us. Organics. You can look over, anybody who travels a lot, Argo tea. I don't know if anybody's been through airports before and seen Argo teas all over the place. We actually manufacture their products worldwide.
What else besides tea? Juices?
Juices, purity organic juices.
But you don't do beer?
Don't do any beer. Maybe in our future. I'm going to say no to it. I think more hard liquor would be in our future, so we can compete against City Brewing. But we do everything from juices to sodas. If you go to the Latrobe Giant Eagle, the entire craft soda section comes from us, all the glass bottles. We manufacture it for most of the country. So anything we do, we don't just do for a region. Our hottest areas are actually California and New York City.
Well, thank you very much for moving into the city. We welcome you and appreciate you being here. Jared?
How many jobs are there now, workers?
You can ask him if I have to look it up before I can.
Roughly.
We're probably about 100 to 110, I'd say right now. Less people came with the move than we anticipated. So
Tell everybody where you moved from.
We moved from New Kensington to Latrobe. It's been in the works for about 2 years now. And we finally shut down the other plant in New Kensington December 31st, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a big day for us. And we had a big commitment to all our employees that they all had a job moving over with us. And we found out 2 days later that probably about 30 of them didn't want to make the move. So we've been on a hiring spree since. So, well, I'd say probably by summertime we'll be up to about 150, 160, as long as we get the right applicants. And if anybody wants a tour ever, you're welcome to give a holler over, and we'll give you a personal tour of the place. You can see how we manufacture stuff. We want to be good neighbors. As you can tell, I'm nothing really to look at.
I took Brian's tour, and it was definitely a nice operation, very clean, very interesting to walk through and see.
Are you a 24-hour operation right now?
Well, I wouldn't say 24. We're open 24. We manufacture 2 tons a day.
Okay.
But Sunday seems to be a real tough day to get people to work.
Right.
But we do maintenance on Sundays.
Have we lost any tax revenue as a result of the, I think you were applying for a lowering of taxes, weren't you? No, tax, okay.
You applied for nothing.
Don't give me any ideas.
No, I just.
I'm just teasing.
No, the only thing we did is we filed for what is it, Jim?
An assessment appeal.
Yeah.
The assessment.
I've spent time with Jim.
We worked out an agreement with them.
Oh, okay.
It's fair to everybody.
That's what you're remembering, Jim, I'm sure. Well, thank you very much, Brian. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Very good.
City Manager's report.
Just 2 quick items. We have been approached by West Penn Power. They are going to donate to the city $500 to help with the city cleanup program. We're going to do something in the springtime. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to apply that money, but we appreciate them offering it, and we certainly will find a way to spend it. Next, also, we're on our 3rd customer for the sign. So we're picking up some revenue there, and we're also getting some advertisement for some of the business within the city. So glad to see it starting to take off. That's it.
I think I said everything I wanted to say as we were going along, so anyone on the council have anything? Okay, with that, meeting's adjourned.
Who's in there?